Welcome back to Quarter Dollar, where ordinary change can turn into extraordinary treasure. Today, we're diving into the top 5 valuable quarter dollars that could leave you speechless. Some of these coins, if sitting in your pocket right now, might not just buy you lunch. They could buy you a house. That's how shocking their values can get. If you love uncovering coin secrets and rare finds, make sure to subscribe here. And also check out my second channel, US Mint Mysteries, where we dig even deeper into the stories behind America's rarest coins. Hit that subscribe button on both channels so you don't miss a single discovery. I've dropped the link to US Mint Mysteries in the first comment below. Go check it out. Stick with me until the very end, because the number 1 quarter will absolutely blow your mind. First up, we begin with a coin that many people overlook because it seems so ordinary. The 1965 Washington quarter. At first glance, especially in extremely circulated condition, it might look like nothing more than a well-worn piece of pocket change. The surfaces are dull. The once sharp details on Washington's hair and the eagle on the back are faded, and the edges are smooth from decades of use. Most people would toss it aside, thinking it has no value beyond 25 cents. But here's where the surprise comes in. The 1965 quarter marks a turning point in US coin history. This was the first year the mint completely removed silver from quarters, switching instead to a copper-nickel clad composition. Because of that change, collectors hunt these coins carefully, especially for errors made during the transition. Now, in this condition, a 1965 quarter might only be worth a little over face value to most. But imagine finding one of the rare transitional errors, a 1965 quarter. That was accidentally struck on a silver planchet meant for 1964. These errors slipped through the cracks at the mint, and they're worth a small fortune today. Even heavily circulated examples of these silver transitional errors can fetch $5,000 to $10,000. If you find one in better condition, the price skyrockets. A high-grade uncirculated transitional 1965 quarter has sold for well over $100,000 at auction, and one pristine example crossed the $150,000 mark. That's right, a single quarter, from the year most people thought silver was gone, suddenly becoming more valuable than a brand new luxury car. The key to spotting one is weight and color. Regular clad 1965 quarters weigh 5.67 grams. But the rare silver planchets weigh about 6.25 grams and have a brighter, whiter tone. Even if your coin is as worn as this one, in extremely circulated condition, it's always worth checking the weight carefully. You never know when you might be holding a piece of minting history that could change your life. This particular circulated example may not scream riches on its own, but it tells the story of a dramatic shift in US coinage. And that story is exactly what gives collectors excitement. What makes it so thrilling is that these rare 1965 quarters are still out there, hidden in old change jars, tucked in drawers, or even resting in pocket change without anyone realizing. Imagine spending a quarter at the grocery store, only to find out years later it could have been worth 6 figures. That's the kind of shock value that keeps collectors hunting, and it's what makes the 1965 quarter such the legendary piece. Next up, we move to the 1966 Washington quarter, and once again, this is a coin that most people would dismiss at first sight. In circulated condition, the surfaces are grey and worn down from decades of use. Washington's profile looks soft, the details in his hair are faded, and the eagle on the reverse side has lost most of its sharp lines. There's no mint mark anywhere, which might make it look even less interesting to the untrained eye. But here's where things get fascinating. The year 1966 hides secrets that can turn an ordinary quarter into a shocking payday. The US Mint was still in transition from silver to clad coinage during this year. Just like 1965, collectors searched the 1966 quarters closely for rare mistakes. Some 1966 quarters were struck on leftover silver planchets. And if you ever find one of those, even in circulated condition, the value can leap into the thousands. A standard 1966 clad quarter in worn condition might only be worth its face value, but a silver transitional error can easily sell for $5,000 to $8,000, even if it's been in pockets and purses for half a century. Higher grade examples have reached the unbelievable range of $20,000 to $30,000 at auction. But the surprises don't stop there. The 1966 quarters also have dramatic minting errors that collectors crave. Off-center strikes, double dies, and even coins struck on the wrong planchets have been recorded. Imagine finding a 1966 quarter with a bold double die obverse, where Washington's profile and lettering show clear doubling. Such coins can command anywhere from $1,000 to $15,000, depending on condition. And if you happen to stumble across one of the extremely rare wrong planchet errors, like a quarter struck on a dime planchet, values have reached as high as $50,000. That's the kind of jaw-dropping discovery that turns pocket change into treasure. Even more exciting is the fact that none of these coins from 1965 to 1967 carry mint marks. The mint intentionally left there off during those years to discourage hoarding during the silver transition. So when you look at a 1966 quarter, you're holding a piece of that history. A coin that represents the government's effort to keep change circulating while silver was disappearing. That lack of mint mark, which might look boring at first, is actually a sign of one of the most unique periods in US coinage history. So yes, a 1966 quarter in this circulated condition might not look like much at first glance, but the thrill lies in the possibility. Could this plain-looking coin actually be one of the rare transitional silver errors? Could it hide a dramatic double die? Every time you check a 1966 quarter, you're stepping into a treasure hunt. And that's what makes it so exciting. Some people still can't believe that a coin they've handled dozens of times in their lifetime could carry a hidden value that climbs into the 5 figures. And that is the magic of the 1966 Washington quarter. Next up, we land in 1980 with the Washington quarter struck at the Denver Mint. At first glance, this faded circulated example looks like just another everyday quarter. The luster is long gone. Washington's hair details have softened almost to nothing, and the eagle on the reverse is flat from years of heavy use. You can barely make out the small D mint mark just beside Washington's ponytail. And most people wouldn't give it a second thought. But here's where things get surprising. 1980 quarters, especially from Denver, hide values and stories that can shock even long-time collectors. By this year, the copper-nickel clad composition was well established, but the mint was producing billions of coins, and with mass production came mistakes. Some 1980 D quarters carry bold double die errors, especially on the motto, "In God We Trust," and the date, even in heavily circulated condition. Such coins can bring in $500 to $1,000. In higher grades, the price jumps quickly into the $5,000. range. And then there are off-center strikes from 1980D. Dramatic ones where part of the design is missing can reach values of $2,000 to $8,000, depending on just how far off-center the strike is. But what really shocks collectors are the rare wrong planchet errors. Imagine a 1980D quarter struck not on a quarter blank at all, but on a smaller dime planchet or even a foreign coin blank. These unusual errors can fetch tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, one 1980D Washington quarter struck on a foreign planchet stunned collectors when it sold for over $40,000 at auction. And for those lucky enough to own a pristine mint state 1980D with strong strike and no wear, top-graded examples have brought in staggering figures, crossing into the $20,000 to $30,000 range. That's an unbelievable jump from what looks like an ordinary coin in your change. The design itself is classic. John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. By 1980, people were so used to seeing this design that they hardly noticed it anymore. And that's exactly why these coins are so dangerous to overlook. They blend right into your pocket change, but the right variety, the right condition, or the right error can transform a tired, faded coin into a jackpot find. So picture this. You've held quarters from 1980 in your hands hundreds of times. Maybe spent them at a gas station or slit them into a vending machine. But what if one of those coins, just like this faded 1980D, was worth not just 25 cents, but the price of a new car, or even a down payment on a house? That's the kind of mind-blowing value hidden in plain sight. And it's what makes the 1980D Washington quarter one of the most exciting finds a collector can stumble across. Next up, we move to the 1982 P Washington quarter, and this one tells a story that most collectors know well. A story of mistakes, rarity, and shocking value. At first glance, this extremely circulated example looks like nothing special. The surfaces are worn to a flat grey. Washington's face is smoothed down. The eagle's feathers on the reverse are barely visible, and the edges are soft from decades of use. But look closely at the mint mark, the P, from Philadelphia. For many years, Philadelphia coins had no mint mark, but in 1980, the mint began adding one, making this one of the early P quarters. And the 1982 P carries one of the most famous and valuable modern quarter errors of all time. This is the coin that gave rise to the legendary 1982p Washington quarter with no mint mark. That's right. In a small number of cases, the die that struck these coins was missing the P entirely, creating a coin that looks like it was made in the old pre-1980 tradition. Collectors went wild when this error was discovered, and the value is absolutely jaw-dropping. In circulated condition, one of these 1982 no mint mark quarters can bring in $200 to $500. In higher grades, the numbers explode. Mint state examples have reached over $10,000, and the finest known specimens have sold for more than $30,000 at auction. That's for a single quarter that most people wouldn't give a second look to. Even without the famous no mint mark error, the 1982p is still interesting because it was struck in massive numbers during a period when the mint was producing billions of clad quarters every year. That high-speed production meant plenty of mistakes slipped through. Off-center strikes from 1982p can reach values of $1,000 to $3,000, depending on severity. Double die errors on the obverse and reverse, though rare, can fetch several $1,000s. And then there are dramatic wrong plankett errors. A handful of 1982p quarters struck on dime plankets or foreign blank have been recorded, some selling in the $5,000 to $15,000 range. The best part about the 1982p is that it blends right into circulation. People still spend them without realizing what they're holding. Imagine finding one in this exact same extremely circulated condition, where the surfaces are dull and lifeless, but when you look closer, the mint mark is completely missing. Instead of a worthless worn coin, you're suddenly holding a $500 bill in the palm of your hand. And if lightning strikes twice and you discover a high-grade survivor, you might be looking at the kind of payday that makes national headlines. What makes this coin so thrilling is the emotional twist. It's a coin you've seen thousands of times in your life. You may have used one in a soda machine or tossed one into a jar at home. Yet, hidden among all those ordinary 1982p quarters are a tiny number of spectacular errors worth more than most people's cars. That's the kind of discovery that makes coin collecting F. Next up, we move to the 1983D Washington Quarter, a coin that tells one of the most unexpected stories in modern US coinage. In circulated condition, it doesn't look like much. The coin is worn from decades of use. Washington's profile has lost most of its sharpness. The eagle's wings are flat, and the once shiny surfaces are now dull and grey. The small D mint mark from Denver still peeks out beside Washington's ponytail. But other than that, it looks just like any other quarter you might toss into a vending machine. And yet, the 1983D has shocked collectors with values that are hard to believe. Here's why. In 1982 and 1983, the US Mint did not release official uncirculated mint sets. That means every single surviving coin from those years had to come from circulation. No pristine sets were saved by collectors straight from the mint, which makes finding a high-grade 1983D quarter incredibly difficult. Most examples, like this one, in circulated condition, are heavily worn and face value. But the few survivors in uncirculated gem condition, they're treasures. A sharp, brilliant 1983D Washington quarter has sold at auction for over $10,000, and prices keep climbing as collectors scramble to fill that gap in their sets. But there's more. The 1983D is also famous for dramatic minting errors. One of the most valuable is the double die reverse, where the eagle's wings, feathers, and lettering show doubling. Even in worn condition, a collector will pay hundreds of dollars for a clear example. In high grade, these double die reverses can push past $2,000. And then there are off-center strikes and wrong planchet errors from the Denver Mint in 1983. Quarters struck off-center by more than 50% can bring $3,000 or more, while coins struck on dime or foreign planchets have stunned the hobby with auction prices as high as $20,000 to $25,000. What makes the 1983D especially exciting is the emotional punch. For most people, this coin is pure nostalgia. It circulated heavily through the 1980s and 1990s, showing up in pockets, laundromats, and vending machines across the country. Countless people spent them without realizing they were holding something that could one day be worth thousands. Imagine handing over a 1983D quarter for a pack of gum, only to discover years later that a pristine example from that same year sold for more than $10,000. That's the kind of gut-punch surprise that makes this coin legendary among collectors. So while this circulated example may look worn and ordinary, the 1983D Washington Quarter is anything but. Its rarity in top grades, its error varieties, and its unique place in history make it one of the most valuable and thrilling quarters you could ever find. It's a reminder that sometimes the coins we overlook the most can hide the biggest treasures. Next up, we move to the 1984p Washington quarter. And once again, at first glance, it seems like nothing but an ordinary piece of worn-out change. This extremely circulated example shows heavy wear. Washington's profile is flat, the word Liberty is fading, and the eagle on the back is reduced to soft outlines with almost no detail left in the feathers. The P mint mark from Philadelphia is still there, but most people wouldn't notice it. They'd probably toss it in a parking meter without a second thought. But the truth is, the 1984p quarter is one of those coins that proves just how deceiving appearances can be. Philadelphia quarters from this year are known for errors and varieties that turn average-looking coins into stunning discoveries. One of the most famous is the 1984p double die obverse, where Washington's eye and parts of the motto "In God We Trust" show clear doubling. Even in extremely circulated condition, collectors will pay hundreds of dollars for a strong example. In higher grades, this error has brought prices soaring into the $3,000 to $5,000 range. And then there are off-center strikes. Some from 1984 show dramatic 50% or more off-center designs, leaving parts of the coin blank, and those have sold for several $1,000s. But what really shocks collectors are the rare wrong planket strikes. In 1984, a small number of Philadelphia quarters were struck on plankets intended for other coins, including dimes and even foreign coin blanks. These incredible minting blunders can carry values of $10,000 to $20,000, depending on condition. Imagine holding a beat-up 1984 quarter like this one, only to realize it was struck on the wrong blank. Suddenly, that dull-looking coin is worth more than a stack of $100 bills. The value of regular 1984p quarters in circulated condition isn't much, maybe a few cents above face value. But the thrill lies in spotting the rarities. And here's another reason why the 1984p is so important. Like the 1982 and 1983 quarters, very few were saved in pristine rolls or mint sets. That means gem uncirculated survivors are surprisingly scarce. Top-graded 1984p quarters, without a single scratch or nick, have brought jaw-dropping prices at auction, some crossing the $10,000 mark. What makes this so emotional is how familiar the coin is. Most of us remember using 1984 quarters in daily life, at payphones, arcade machines, or grocery stores. It was the workhorse of the 1980s, a coin people barely noticed. And yet, hiding among those ordinary coins are a few spectacular rarities that can transform 25 cents into thousands of dollars. That's the ultimate wow factor, realizing the change in your pocket from decades ago could now be worth more than a new car. So while this extremely circulated 1984p Washington quarter looks worn and tired, it carries a story of hidden value, collector excitement, and the kind of shocking discoveries that keep people searching every single